So a great big hello and thank you again to Henry and the NIMS team for the invitation. But let's start exploring DocLink's advanced AP automation solution for Sage 100. So I want to tap into some creativity for the moment. And let's imagine a paperless world, a world in which in your organization, you have the ability to easily access documents from within Sage 100 screens or from within another application automatically and be able to drill down and drill around into the documents that are important to your business. Also, no more shuffling papers between employees. So this is what we're going to explore. We're going to really explore how you can take your organization paperless, and we're going to start asking ourselves some of those difficult questions to determine whether or not that this is relevant for us in our organizations. So what our roadmap is for today are these things that you're seeing here on the screen. So I thought it would be helpful to kind of take two different scenarios. I want to take what we're going to call advanced AP automation, where we're putting a lot of technology, out there in terms of being able to maybe create a requisition, leverage OCR and AI to extract documents and data. And then we're going to also look at a more simplified application. And that way, you get to choose how much technology is going to be important to your organization. And then we're going to explore kind of unpeeling some of those layers of the onion in terms of ROI. And then we also want to start talking about how you can take this tool that has a label of AP automation and bring it to other departments as well that equally have kind of paper-based issues and bottlenecks. So I want to now explore what I mean by advanced AP automation. And I want to share with you not only what is possible with the DocLink application, but what it may mean to your organization. Let me preface everything by simply saying this. DocLink is very, very scalable, and it is intended to either be a department solution where maybe you want to focus your energy on one department. It can also be an enterprise-wide application. So my theory in sharing this information with you is to simply say, this is what's possible. What do you need in your organization to make sure that you're pushing things forward from a strategic standpoint and really driving time savings and productivity gains? We talk about AP probably because it's just so awash in documents and paper. And don't even get me started on the audit process, which can be really quite problematic as well. But let's explore AP. So most times when I'm working with organizations, we do what's called a discovery call, and we are mapping out existing processes and really trying to figure out where are the inefficiencies and how are we going to best use DocLink to solve those inefficiencies. Right. And so what you're seeing here on the screen are the areas that most people find really, really problematic. So two-way and three-way matching is very problematic for companies, and it's very time consuming. Approvals, we've got, minimizing data entry as at every step in the process. So that people can focus on more strategic tasks. And then at the very end, you have this capability of also having self-service document access. And that's really critical because we want people, based on security, to have access to documents that are meaningful for them so they can just simply do the work that they're intended to do. Now, the benefits, right? And of course, before I go into the benefits, but let me just go back there for a moment. Having an application that is deeply integrated with your Sage 100 application is really critical as well, because there are many, many different, areas of gain in an organization. It could be that you're viewing documents within the Sage windows. It could be that we're repurposing data, in order to minimize data entry. It could be that just simply having something that's an out-of-the-box application integrated with Sage is more cost efficient than having something that would be custom built as well. But these are the benefits. I like focusing on the benefits for organizations because in my mind, if I was sitting in your shoes, I would probably be needing to calculate some kind of return on investment. I'm probably going to have to answer to someone to say, all right, we have an organization that has manual processes. The cost of doing business manually is XYZ, right? Fill in the blank. And there are additional implications by keeping things manual. And we want to invest in technology to take our organization to the next level. So these buckets here are simply to help you illuminate, where you're going to get the savings. It could be actual hard cost savings where you're spending physical dollars on offsite storage or a space calculation. Maybe if you got rid of all your filing cabinets, you could reduce the office space or repurpose that in a meaningful way. Personnel, right? If we really are looking at trying to help your organization grow and scale without adding headcount, that can be really critical as well. Time savings. When we map a business process, it becomes crystal clear, where those bottlenecks are and how much, doing things manually really costs an organization. So that's easy to configure. And then also we can look at the strategic initiative. So where's your company going? What's preventing your company from, making it to the next level? These are all things that we can consider, as part of your project and how, DocLink and AP automation fits in that. All right, we're going to start getting into some details. And what I want to do is I want to bring you through kind of an example. So in this case, it's a full kind of rec to check or procurement or procure to pay solution where we're starting with the one kind of document example, in this case, a requisition, and we're taking it all the way through into check capture or payment capture, and then being able to search and retrieve documents. So, let me ask just the folks that are here on the line. I'm curious to know, and you can chat back to me. Are you using purchase orders and requisitions in your organization? I'm just curious to know. But I'll move forward with the presentation as it's designed right now. But I would be curious to know if the folks on the line are using purchase orders or even requisitions, or if that's maybe a direction for you. But let's explore all that DocLink can do in this arena, and then we'll come back and do a little bit of recap. So when we're looking at a requisition, you can use DocLink it's called the Smart Form Toolkit, and you absolutely can use DocLink to have your organization create requisitions. And then those requisitions can go through an approval process, and then we can take that requisition document and the data and create a purchase order in Sage automatically, right? That purchase order can then be, sent out to vendors automatically as well. So if we want to look at what that might look like, here's an example of what we call our Smart Form Toolkit. This can actually be configured to your requirements. So this is just intended to be a sample. Some of the cool things about this is that if you look at all the different microscope, those are actually showing some of the integration back into Sage, because we can look at that data in order to pull through, various items to create the requisition. And then once the requisition is created, then we're going to send it off in workflow in order to get that requisition approved. So this is an example of kind of what it looks like at the workflow level. So you have this nice kind of dashboard of all the different documents that have gone into this person's workflow. And if we open it up, then we are looking at not only the requisition as a note. This requisition is just in plain text. If it's important to your organization to have a beautiful form, then we can apply what's called an XSLT style sheet, and then that'll make it a beautiful form. But there's some nice things we can do to increase communication between employees. So you've got an example of a sticky note here. Do we really need these? And then if you take a look on that right-hand column, you're seeing we can also do what's called an informational note, or track with the date and timestamp and the actual user of who's approved this particular requisition. So now you're getting a glimpse into the whole workflow engine and routing documents between employees. And then in terms of the routing, you can either choose from the drop-down box in terms of someone to route it to, or many companies say, well, we don't want to pick from the list. We want to leverage automation. So you can actually leverage automation based on dollar amount or based on any of the metadata that's been captured about this document, and thereby kind of still adhere to your corporate guidelines and, really provide that kind of power to your organization. Now, once we've created the requisition and that's gone through the approvals, that can automatically be brought into Sage and create the purchase order. So there's lots of things that we can do at the purchase order level as well. Again, you get to choose based on what's needed in your organization, but couple things to note: we can capture the purchase order automatically from Sage. So based on our integration, and not only can we capture the purchase order, but we can capture any document, report, or form that comes from Sage and store it in a centralized library so people can have easy access. I had one of my customers, we didn't talk about it too much during the sales cycle, but it was the journals and registers. And then afterwards they said, PL, why didn't you tell me about the journals and registers? We love this functionality. So I thought that was kind of funny. So I said, okay, you know what? I hear your message. From now on, whenever I'm talking with the Sage 100 crowd, I will absolutely bring that up. So anyways, back to purchase orders, right? So you can capture purchase orders, you can view them in the purchase order window. You can, if purchase orders are the first document in your process, then you can send that through an approval cycle. And if you want to, you even would have the functionality to send that PO automatically out to a vendor with maybe some kind of supporting document. And you can even use DocLink as a web portal. So you see, there's a lot of functionality that we can bring to the table under the umbrella of DocLink, but you get to choose, how much of that technology is going to be important. So here's just a quick glance at our Sage screen, and we have the capabilities here of being able to view documents, just by clicking the View Documents button. You see that right there. And then here's the document that gets revealed, so this is the purchase order. And I think what's important here is not only is the purchase order captured, but we've got all that metadata right here. Let me see if I can kind of bring my mouse over here to the slide. There we go. So right here in this particular column, we have all the metadata about this particular document. And that's important because we want to be able to use that to, tie this to various other documents, the receiving document, the invoice. We also are using the metadata or purchase order number, in this case specifically, to tie it back to the screen. Now, if you want to, this was also that part of that extended functionality. We can send that PO automatically out to the vendor. So it really comes back to asking yourself the question of, what are you doing in that area today? What is the cost of doing business manually? And would that be important to you? Or is that not important? You don't use POs, so we can just then move into the non-PO invoice kind of area of exploration. But that kind of gives you an idea of sending out the purchase order and some kind of supporting document to the vendor automatically. All right. Packing slips can be brought in to support the receiving entry. So just know that that's part of it. Most people get super excited about the invoice automation side of it. So now our invoice has arrived. Most people tell me that they get 1% in email and 1% on hard copy. So emails can be monitored by OCR. If you're getting a percentage of your invoices in via hard copy, no worries. Those get scanned to be an electronic copy, and then OCR can then step in and really start looking at capturing all of the data off of that particular invoice. And so when we're talking about a PO related invoice, it's not only capturing header and footer, right, but we're capturing all of the details, all the line items about that particular invoice. Now, OCR is super slick, right? You've got, artificial intelligence working behind the scenes to grab that data automatically. If for some reason it's not able to read it, there's a really nice user interface here that you can quickly correct data with just point and click functionality. And then the next step is to bring that invoice into DocLink in order to do the processing. So here's our DocLink moving into workflow. And because we've captured all of that information, all the documents that relate to that invoice are now automatically visible in workflow. So as you're going through to maybe, take a look at this, maybe there was a discrepancy. That's really the most natural example, is that there was some kind of discrepancy, and now someone needs to take a look. So they can look at all of these documents, they can make the correction that's needed, and then it comes back to AP, and then AP can set this up for automated entry. So a quick point here that I didn't really focus on, and I want to make sure I've highlighted. When we're looking at OCR, right, and we're capturing all of this information, if OCR gets it correct, and within DocLink workflow, there's an automatic match, then that's going to be transacted automatically in Sage. That's where you're getting this time savings. So think about, if matching is a big kind of issue for your organization, how many documents match today, yet you still need to touch. The trend that's been going on recently is about 70% match. I had one company said 90% match, and they're only focusing, or only want to be able to focus on the 10% that don't match. So some really important things to start thinking about in your organization to find out, how much technology do we need to apply? All right, let's talk a little bit about approvals. So there's lots of different possibilities with approvals. You can get what's just called an informational note. Hey, so-and-so, you've got, invoices in your workflow. Please sign in and approve them. So that's one option. Right, you can have more of a summary email, and this is kind of giving someone a little bit more details about, what's in several people's workflow queue. So that's kind of nice, just as information again. You may want to have someone get an email alert to indicate that they've got some action to take, but you want them to launch right into DocLink. And you see that there's a launch link that can be embedded as well. So that's really nice. And then what I see very, very still common in our business is that people want to get an email, they've got the invoice attached, and then embedded are these approve or deny buttons that they can simply click on, and that automatically moves it with their kind of electronic signature, if you will, to the next step in the workflow process. So just some nice variations on how we can do approvals and some email notifications. All right, so that kind of took care of the whole cradle to grave life cycle of starting with a requisition, creating that purchase order, packing slip comes in as indexed and received, and now we got that invoice and we've leveraged OCR to extract that, doing automated matching, and really opening up the organization to be able to just manage by exception versus having to touch every single document that comes in. So the next kind of section, of invoices is those that are not preceded by a PO. And for these ones, we are calling them our non-PO based invoices. So it could be something like utilities. It could be something like a miscellaneous expense item. So there's a lot of different possibilities here as well. Maybe you want to still use OCR in order to extract data. Maybe OCR is overkill and you just want DocLink to monitor the email inbox and pull it into DocLink in order to start the processing. So all of that is possible. We would work with you on helping to decide, how much technology is important in your organization. And then what we do, which might be different for your organizations, is we allow for you to code in DocLink. So no more printing paper, no more applying that rubber stamp on the document and writing in GL codes only to route it out for the approval process. Now everything's electronic. you have an opportunity to do coding in DocLink. And then once that invoice has gone through the approval process, then we're able to take that data and automatically update Sage. So here again, we're eliminating the manual steps. We are eliminating data entry at every step in the process and still giving you complete visibility and control of where that invoice is in the approval cycle so that you have ultimate control of that transaction. Okay, this is just showing you that, yes, the lines of this particular invoice got imported as well. And there's some really slick tools if you have to code across multiple GL account codes as well. So just another highlight of functionality for you. And then, of course, we're still showcasing for you that you can view documents right from within the Sage windows as well. So you see on the left-hand side there at the bottom, it says View Documents. So that button gets added when you've deployed DocLink. And now with a click of that button, you're able to view documents that relate to that particular transaction. So super efficient, especially for your Sage users. And then, of course, any external users, they would still be able to utilize DocLink. All right, the final step is payment capture, right? Giving you this nice, tight, auditable document packet and delivering to you documents at your fingertips. So to kind of showcase what this can look like for you, here's the DocLink search window. And so this allows for you to really search for documents by document type. You can restrict the search by document property, which is basically your transactional information. You can do certain saved searches. If that's very common, you're always going after certain document sets. In this case, I'm just simply saying, hey, listen, I want to see this particular document. Here's the number of the reference. And then now I'm given that check back. And then I can drill down and open it up and see the actual check, or drill down and then look at all the supporting documents that relates to it. So now you've got this concept of having documents at your fingertips. All right, so let's do a little bit of a recap because I feel like I gave you a lot of information to consider. So let's have a little bit of a quick poll and find out kind of what's going on and what pieces were most important to you. And you're welcome to either chat back to me or you're welcome to participate in the poll. So let's see if we can launch the poll and see what's going on for this particular poll challenge in AP. All right. Thank you. There we go. Okay, so what's your AP challenges? Did this change anything from what we talked about? Are you still looking at manual processes being the biggest issue? Or is it cost savings? Maybe invoices getting lost? Slow approval process? All right, we'll close the poll for now. And let's continue on in our journey, our how to go paperless in our organizations. So what I just presented was what I would consider advanced AP automation. Right? We're really leveraging a lot of technology to solve the traditional paper-based issues in organizations. Next, I want to showcase for you a little bit of, not necessarily showcase, but just talk through more of a simple use case of technology. So DocLink, in order to help organizations really get their foot in the door of an automated AP solution, has came up with an extension, if you will, of the Sage Paperless Office application. We call it Paperless Plus, and it does a couple different things. So number one, it's going to give you all the AP invoice functionality that we talked about. You'll be able to view all paperless office documents within DocLink. So if you wanted to extend that use to other people within your organization, you can do that. And there is the possibility of ad hoc bringing documents into the application as well. So in my mind, if you are a candidate for Paperless Plus, it may be that you want to capture all Sage paperless office documents into one centralized area, that you want to maybe take a look at other areas of the organization and pull in other documents, getting rid of filing cabinets, having a more strategic centralized storage message. And you also still want the capabilities of being able to capture an invoice, route it through an approval process, have that invoice integrated with Sage, capture the payment, and that way you've got, that full kind of cradle to grave life cycle of that document packet. Okay, so let us know if that's something that is more appealing, and then we can certainly follow up with you on that as well. So let's transition a little bit into talking about return on investment. Return on investment is important to organizations because, again, depending on your role, you may be wanting to either calculate what your return on investment would be or what the cost of doing business manually is, so you can set a budget for a future purchase. And to use kind of this phrase of time equals money, right? It really does come down to that. So if you start mapping out your current business process and really looking at how long does it take you to do the various functions, then you will start revealing, how difficult it is to process invoices in the organization. And that in and of itself will be able to help you set a budget. So let's take a look at the next slide and kind of spend a moment going through this. I've been with DocLink for many, many years now. And I love working with customers to help them kind of look at their business process and to really make some critical choices on, how to use automation and technology. In this case, I was working with a customer. So this is an exact replica of what they were doing. And so I'm going to use this as an example so you can start thinking similarly about how are you doing business and where your savings might be. So for them, their manual business process kind of looked like this. They had invoices that were coming into the organization, and they came in via email and they came in via mail. And they were processing about 75 invoices a day. So the first step was they either opened the email, they actually printed it if it was actually coming in from email, or opened it if it was from the US mail. Sorry, I think I got those all jumbled up. And then the first thing was that they would put a date stamp on it. Okay. Next step was that within that, like rubber stamp, they would physically write GL account code information, and whether it was one code or multiple codes because they were splitting it across. And then they would start routing it off for approval. So typically, because they were a one office organization, they would just route it off to the managers, walk over and put it on their desk. Right. And then it would sit there, right? And if vendors started calling, then it was difficult for them to find out, well, where is that invoice in the process? Who has it? And create a little bit of friction between the vendors. But once they got that invoice back, then they would actually physically voucher it into the system. And then when they cut their payments, that voucher got stuck on the top of the invoice packet, and then they would have to file it away. But let's go back to the beginning. So they got 75 invoices a day. Every single day, it took them 30 minutes, right, just to open the mail. Now that's every single day, right? 4 hours it took them to do this whole manual coding process. Now, yours may be longer or shorter, but it doesn't matter. It's about unpeeling these layers so that you can understand what is the cost of doing business manually. And then they would route it through the approval process. Now, we didn't happen to capture what they were calculating for the approval process, but think about it. There are other considerations here. What happens if a vendor calls and you're not able to find that invoice? How long does it take you to find that invoice? Is the manager out of the office? And that way they're not able to get to the invoices. All of that goes away with DocLink, right? So this entire life cycle gets completely solved with DocLink. ERP entry, 2 hours, right? 2 hours to enter all of those invoices. That goes away as well. And then how much hours or how many hours were they spending at filing cabinets? Here again, we didn't really capture that because their area was more on the, saving the data entry on that 4 hours and the 2 hours bit. But just think about it. How much time are you spending at your filing cabinets to file, refile, or go hunt down something if someone takes it from the file, but they don't replace it. And then we can also start thinking about audit savings as well. So this, in my mind, is where you should be spending time in the beginning, is to really think about what are the issues that you're trying to solve. And that way, as you go into the market to look for applications, you'll know what you should be setting as your budget. And then here's the other interesting kind of part. When you're looking at AP, that structure is document comes in, goes through a business process, updates the ERP, ready for search and retrieval, right? That particular business process can be in many areas in the organization. So it could be that you're trying to capture a quote or a customer PO and automatically create a sales order. It could be that you're trying just to capture AR invoices and route those out with some kind of supporting document. So the cool thing with DocLink is that you can use this one tool to impact many, many areas in the organization. So that's what's really nice about DocLink. And one of the competitive advantages that we have is that you can use this tool for many other business processes, not just accounts payable. So we have just a couple slides left, and then maybe we can do a little bit of Q&A if anyone has any questions. But I really think the best way that I can serve you as the audience today is to really get you thinking about what's going on in your organization. What's the strategy that you have? Is cost savings, especially in today's climate, something that you've got to really, really focus on? Is it more operational efficiencies by streamlining processes and time savings? And, or is it, in order to position you in a way that can go after more strategic tasks? So is your company growing? And just because of the current climate, it's actually provided explosive growth. And so now you need to manage that, right? All of these are the top level issues. And as we peel back the layers, we can then find out, well, what's impacting the strategy? Is it a process issue? Are we really focused on AP, or are there other areas in the organization that need the attention more? And then think about, what are the costs of doing business manually? Think about if you could, save the equivalent of one full-time employee, and even add on, some additional benefits of no longer paying late fees or being able to really go after the early pay discounts. What would that mean to your organization? So there's a lot of benefits that you can really capitalize on. All right. So as we come to a close here, I really hope that this information was helpful and just stimulated some interest on some of the questions that you should be asking your organizations, and a couple different ways in which DocLink can help. And so my question for you as we kind of, lead into the end of our presentation today is, how can we support your evaluation? What would be important to you as an organization? Would you like us to send you a return on investment tool so you have a little bit more resources on calculating what that might be for you, or just even, noodling through what that can look like? Would you like a DocLink brochure, so that you can start telling the story internally and getting some interest going? Would you like information on some DocLink differentiators? Maybe you're already in a sales cycle and evaluating solutions, and you want to know what sets DocLink apart in the marketplace. And then the last one here is a discovery call. So we're saying, hey, listen, if you see the benefit and you want to have an opportunity to work with us and say, all right, let's map out our business processes and let's figure out, how we can bring DocLink to our organization, then let us know. We can certainly set up a call, and then I can work with you on outlining those processes and really honing in on where we can help you be more efficient. Okay, so I'll let everyone respond at their leisure to that. So I think then we can wrap up for today. And also, I'm going to leave it open for a few moments for Q&A. So if you have questions, feel free to chat back to me. Now, I'm going to make sure that I've got my chat feature on. Hold on one moment. Okay, so I'm here in chat as well. So let me know if you have any questions whatsoever, and we'll be more than happy to either entertain them here, or if it requires some kind of research in order to get back to you, then I'm happy to do that as well. But with that in mind, a great big thank you. I know your time is valuable, and I sure appreciate that you spent time with me today in looking at DocLink and how it can really help you with AP automation and beyond. All right, so we'll just open it up for chat. And if there's no questions, then we can close for today. So my eyes are peeled on the chat. Okay. And let's see, I don't know. I cannot tell if someone is trying to talk. Let me know if best to use chat, I think. All right. Well, listen, thanks again, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to be in touch soon. All right, take care, everyone. Goodbye.